Yo, welcome to episode 3 of the Boominverse. If you are listening to this, please leave a like, a comment, please subscribe, give me some ideas down there in the comments, and also some feedback, because I very much appreciate it. Otherwise, I'm just having fun with all this and enjoying my time watching the NBA and also discussing it, trying to make it a good habit. Otherwise, as you see by the thumbnail, the title, we are talking about the Philadelphia 76ers, and I have, a few friends who are 76er fan fanatics, and maybe they'll get triggered by what they did see on this thumbnail and such. But to be fair, they've gotten off to a slow start, which have been subpar to expectations. And the expectations is that this team is gonna jump out the gates, being very, very talented. Of the immersion of Tyrese Maxey, James Harden getting back to his normal self, and Joel Embiid chasing that MVP that he so desires and has been robbed via injury, I would say, not by Jokic, because Jokic earned those, but Joel Embiid, if he was not hurt, in my opinion, then more likely than not, he would have had an MVP one of those years. My first talking point is going to be about James Harden, who is playing statistically pretty great this season. Today, on the season so far, I know, very small sample size, he is averaging a cool 25, 8, and 9. Today, he only had 11 points though, which, did drop his averages in pretty much each category, because he only had like 4 assists, I think, but we'll get on to that. And they did win, but that's kind of where I'm bleeding on here, right, is the inconsistencies of James Harden, which concern me as a viewer, and I don't know how Philadelphia 76ers fans also feel about him, maybe. I haven't really discussed that with anyone as of late, but from my eyes, he also, remember he had a 12-point game and a loss a few nights ago. He had an 18-point game and a loss, and efficiency stands out. He's shooting 93% from the free throw line, 40% from 3, only 2.2 turnovers a game. He's taking a wider shot selection, and on paper, it all seems well, but I just don't know if James Harden with the ball in his hand is much more than Tyrese Maxey or Joel Embiid. Him having more ball usage is going to be better for the roster, and it's very hard to identify, and he doesn't move off ball necessarily like that. I mean, he'll kind of hover, but I don't think I've ever seen this man cut in my life. But basically what I'm saying is those stats, they're all-star, arguably all NBA, depending on those efficiency numbers and the team record, but I don't see that sustaining, as it just kind of looks wary to me. He has these nights that keep going down, just very subpar in my opinion, and I expect more from him on a consistent basis, especially with Joel Embiid out tonight. But to be fair, at least he's deferring a bit, right? That's something the old James Harden would have never done. And, that kind of goes into the way he does play, and Joel Embiid, right? So this is a very much half-court offense team. When you combine their whole starting lineup of Harden, Embiid, PJ Tucker, Maxey isn't the problem in my opinion whatsoever. When you have those two players in Joel Embiid and Harden in particular, who are using the majority of the shot clock each possession, that is the reason why they have the lowest pace in the NBA, which isn't necessarily a bad thing when you consider, the Warriors have the number 1 pace, but the Lakers have the number 2 pace, and they're 0-5. So yeah, for the most part though, there's much improvements on that regard, because technically speaking, they're also getting off the least amount of shots, and if you're getting off less shots, and you're getting off less points in totality, and it's actually seeming like so far they're not like complete foul baiters where they're getting a ton at the line every game, and that's why their free throws are lower. It's just actually that they are very slow. It's relatively effective, but it needs to be, I think, more optimized towards Tyrese Maxey, as who he is a very he runs a ton. He's one of the best fast break players in the NBA, or transition players in the NBA. He is one of the best shooters in the NBA. He's one of the best finishers in the NBA, but he's kind of playing third fiddle right now, and you saw him tonight, right, as he was the number one guy practically with Joel Embiid out. James Harden didn't really ever get it going, and he wasn't really aggressive at all. But Tyrese Maxey dropped a very, very efficient 44 points today. I don't know. I think, it does show to be pretty... He's honestly carrying the team, too, at that. Like, I don't know. It's like they're really deferring to him, and they don't really have much of another option with Joel Embiid out, because James Harden, like I said, you can let him cook, but, what he cooking, on his own now isn't what it used to be. That's all I'm saying. No disrespect whatsoever, but, I just think there's some other things to talk about other than James Harden right now. And this might sound weird, me talking about Maxey, because I want to give him all the praise in the world. Is it weird that I don't really see him as a superstar player? Because I don't think it's weird, just because he is a smaller guard, relatively speaking. When you kind of look at the eye test and you look at all the statistics, the efficiency, it makes so much sense that, this guy's up next. He is a superstar, which very well might be the case, but I feel like he'd be best suited as an overqualified 2 or 3. That's gonna help you win championships, man. Like, look at Jaylen Brown. I mean, I think Jaylen Brown is top 15, right? He's second fiddle on the roster, and defensively he's great. He's a wing that's pretty, he's two-way player. He's great, but Maxey, I don't see that equivalent to him. But I think you can understand what I mean. Let me move on and finish. Hey, he is still very possibly the most improved player this year also, so really not a lot to complain about with Tyrese Maxey, and very much looking forward to what I can see him finish the season like. Otherwise, if I keep moving forward right here, I would like to talk about I was talking about their transition offense and they don't really have transition offense other than Tyrese Maxey, but rather the transition defense, which is also the worst in the NBA for them, right? And which, again, has to do with they have a lot of slow guys on their team, Embiid, Harden, PJ Tucker, etc., Daniel House, and the list goes on, of players that aren't really running the floor per se, right? I think at the end of the day, they will progress, and I'm just saying right now, if this formula that they do have is maintained with the very slow offense, and you don't see adjustments from James Harden and Joel Embiid in order to make an effort on Tyrese Maxey's, support, then we need to talk about it, because, hey, he showed today, he's a winner, in my opinion. Otherwise, though, I would like to finish off my discussion about the 76ers by talking about their bench, which they have looked quite atrocious today, which is something I would not have expected considering their offseason acquisitions, D'Anthony Melton, Montrezl Harrell, and considering they have one of the best starting lineups that are not only very talented offensively and defensively, but also seem to fit together very well. And you would just expect that starting unit to be enough to okay, we don't need a great bench, but they have a good bench, players wise. And maybe those players don't really all fit together. Shake Milton, he's kind of, I don't know where to really think about him. Montrezl Harrell, he has not looked very great in my opinion. And Shake Milton, he's solid, he looks like he should maybe even be a starter in place of PJ Tucker in my opinion, but then from that point on, what do you do with PJ Tucker on the bench? He's not really going to be, who's going to create for him basically off the bench. But yeah, that's kind of my opinion on it, and they have, it's just very inconsistent night to night. I think there was a few games ago, there's 10 points in total on their roster, on the bench unit, and it's kind of tough to look at, and everyone did anticipate better things from that. Montrezl Harrell, obviously a 6th man of the year a few years back, and D'Anthony Melton, what he was doing last year with the Memphis Grizzlies was so impressive, and it seemed like such a steal that they got him for, but I don't know, maybe it's kind of hard to find him right in that system, which is a case. Things like this happen all the time, and there's really no kind of see how it optimizes, especially so early in the season. Other than that, I don't really have much more to talk about today. Like I said, if there's any other things y'all can give me to discuss, otherwise I'll just kind of keep maintaining on what I find interesting. I'd appreciate it. And with that said, I hope y'all enjoyed the episode. I hope y'all have a great rest of your weekend. Hopefully I get this out as soon as possible. Yeah, thank you for listening, and have a great one, y'all. Bye.